Hey guys, I'm back again with the second in the unboxing series of the 4 kits that I'm trying to decide to build. Still haven't made up my mind, still going over it. And we already went over the first one, which was the Datsun 240Z, which is a great kit from Tamiya. So now we're going to be going a little bit back in time and unboxing this Monogram High Performance Series Corvette zr1 King of the Hill. And I've already told you why I want to build it. So let's just get cracking and check out what's going on inside. Let's take a look at the box here. Standard for the series. I think there were 3 cars in this series for the King of the Hill. I only have this one. I've had this thing for many, many years. It's got some good pictures of the car there. Picture of the engine there. Brings ignition wires. Same picture here. And a really nice shot of the car here with a little bit of information about the vehicle there. Let's crack this thing open, blow the cobwebs off it, and see what's going on inside. Alright, now let's take a look at the instruction sheet. As you can tell by the yellowing of the page, yeah, I've had this kit for quite a while. And I really hope everything is there, because I've been looking forward to building this. I did actually attempt to start it years ago and just never got back to it. But we can take a look here. Let's just give a little zoom into the instruction book here. Let's see what we got. First, we're going to start. They got you started right at the body and installing the windshield, which is unusual for most kits. I don't usually see most of them starting with just throwing the windshield right into the car. And we have our firewall going together there. Shows you about how installing the glass to the body. I guess it must be a clearance issue or something there they want you to be aware of. And as you can see, I do have notes written here from years ago when I was trying to figure out what color was what. We have a pretty nice interior. Separate door cards. Firewall goes attached to the interior tub. We have our shifter, dashboard assembly, your standard 2-piece seats. And then you drop in the interior right into the body. So it looks like this is a car that is mandatory. You're going to be doing the body painting and all the body work first, because apparently you'll be doing a lot with the body as you're putting the car together. This is odd. They actually have you installing the chassis into the car before you even put the engine in it. Okay. And here we go. We have the engine here. We have a 2-piece block transmission assembly. Oh, look at this. The drive shaft is molded to the right to the transmission. This is all one part. That's interesting. That's a little different. Let me give you a look at that there. Here we can see the drive shaft, transmission, and engine assembly are all one part. You have a front cover, separate front cover. Okay, that's nice there. Cylinder heads, transmission pan. So that you won't have to worry about sealing any seams there. But it looks as if the oil pan is molded to the engine, so there will be some seam sealing required there. Here we have more of the engine build. Camshaft covers. There's your intake, your exhaust manifolds, your belt assembly. Separate power steering pump. Oh, that's interesting. Your AC compressor, your alternator, all separate parts. But I don't see any brackets that will be holding these parts to the engine. So there may be some custom work happening there. And here we have the spark plug wires that the kit comes with. And you'll even have a small little template here for cutting the wires in the proper sizes in order to run them to the correct cylinders. Nice. And this is where our engine and trans installation goes. You're going to be sliding it in from the top there right into the body. That's going to be interesting to see if you can clear everything out clear everything through there nicely. Here we have our radiator, dual fans. There's our whole radiator assembly. Oh, this radiator assembly seems very similar to the Firebird I built a while back. Alright, now let's take a look here. Okay, here we have our intake. And the plenums all get bolted to the top there. Looks like our radiator hoses here. A separate body brace there. Step 16. We have our air conditioning. Oh, look at that. They even come with the air conditioning lines, and that's interesting. It's not a detail you usually get. There's our coolant tank, our air cleaner assembly. It's got a lot of nice detailing in this kit. Alright, here's our front axle. There's our steering rack. Front cross member. I don't think this thing has posable steering. There's our stabilizer bar. Oh, our spring cover for there. Okay. We have our front shocks. Now, is this thing going to have... that's a big letdown for me. There are no brakes in this kit. Here you have the upper control arm, which meet the lower spring. I'm just going to assume this is a spring perch here. The shock is in there, but you don't have... Oh, wait. I spoke before I read ahead. You do have a brake rotor here with a rear caliper. So it looks like I'm going to need to modify that the same way I did on the Firebird. I built a 1998 Firebird ram air. If you check that build out on my channel, you'll see where I modified the brake rotor. I mean the braking system in the wheels to show the calipers through the wheels, as the brake disc had the disc and only had the rear portion of the caliper wrapped around the back of the disc. I guess they figure you'll never see the front half of it. But we're going to see what we can do with that. Alright, now we come over to the other side. We have our rear axle. Here's our diff. All the other related parts there. Now, do we have... what do we have here? A rear axle carrier. There's our shocks. And we do have... yes, we do have rear brakes also. Looks like those are all chrome parts, so those are all going to have to be stripped. There's our exhaust. Front half of the exhaust. Here go our wheels. They're going to get attached. Okay. Standard Monogram wheel mounting. There go the tires and the front half of the wheels. Oh, now this is interesting. Here's the hood, and it has an inner hood frame, which contains the pop-up headlights. Now that's an interesting detail, whereas the frame is separate from the actual hood itself. It's actually pretty nice detailing there. Okay, here are our running lights and our bumper assembly. And here's our bumper assembly in the hood going into the chassis. You have your mirrors. Step 41, installing the last couple of detachable components. And then you're done. So this looks like it's actually going to be a pretty detailed build, even though it's a pretty old kit. Alright, now let's take a look at some of the parts in this kit. Okay, here we have the body, which has suffered a little bit during its many years stored away, as we have a little bit of distortion right here on this part of the hood. That is going to require a bit of repair work. The plastic has even yellowed somewhat. Let me just zoom out a little bit here so you guys can get a better look at it. Plastic is also yellowed somewhat, as it was never stored away in the nicest of dark places. And here we have the... gonna have to do a little repair work here, as the hood hinge is broken. But this is our big problem area here. I don't know if you can see that, how distorted that is, which is going to require a bit of repair work. Here you can get a good look at the chassis. It's got the Corvette emblem in the rear. The inner frame and portion of the chassis. The body looks really, really good. Proportions are right. It's got good seam lines. Don't see any flash. Worth noting, and also don't see much in the way of mold lines either. Actually looks pretty good for a kit of its vintage. It's not bad at all. Let's take a look at the hood there. You can see the pop-up headlight covers, the Corvette emblem. Nice. If it weren't for this, it'd be just about perfect. Right, so let's move on to the next item. All right, here we have our seats. I'm going to guess these are the cylinder heads. Part of the radiator frame. Here go our door cards, which are a pretty good representation of the Corvette's door cards. We have our mirrors here, which look like the exact same mirrors that are in the Pontiac Fiero kit. A few more components here. A few engine components. Oh, and it does. Oh, this looks like the alternator maybe. And it does have a mounting bracket. All right, look at that. Here go our AC components. Very nice. Put that to the side. Let's take a look at our glass and see what kind of shape this is in. The glass is actually in pretty good shape. It's gonna need a little buffing out and cleaning up, as there are a couple little scuff marks on it, but it's actually in pretty good shape. Now the roof is molded into the glass, so that's gonna have to be painted. Unless, of course, I'm not sure if this car ever came with a transparent roof like the new Corvettes do. So that's something I have to look into, because it'd be nice to leave the roof transparent. All right, let's keep going with our little look-see here. Here we have the firewall. Here are radiator components. Let's see what the detail work on this front cover looks like. Not bad. Not quite Tamiya quality, but not bad. Here's our leaf spring, looks like. As we all know, the Corvettes use fiberglass leaf spring in the front and rear. One solid spring that goes all the way across. It's an interesting setup if you get a chance to get a close-up look at one, as I did recently. The parts are surprisingly clean of flash. I mean, there's a little flash on the tree here, but the parts themselves seem to be surprisingly clean and well molded. Okay, here we have one chrome tree. We have our suspension components. There go our brakes. Exhaust systems. Here is our intake. A lot of this stuff is going to have to be stripped. Here we have one exhaust manifold. Hopefully the other one's still in there. It looks like this might be another spring. Let's take a look at these wheels. The wheels are actually pretty nicely made. Corvette emblems in them. The wheels, the Corvette zr1 specific wheels here are pretty nicely cast. They are not bad at all. A little dull coat just to knock the chrome down a little bit, but even the way they are, they look pretty nice. These are valve covers here for the zr1's engine. Our intake runners, it looks like there. This engine, from what, if I remember correctly, this generation of car, the engine was built by Mercury Marine for GM, for the Corvette. It was only used in the Corvette. And from what I hear, finding parts and keeping them running is next to impossible. So the guys who have these cars treasure them. Here's our interior bucket. Nicely molded. Here go more of our suspension components. These are subframes. Here's our steering rack. And let's take a look at the belt and pulley assembly. Not too badly molded at all. And we even have a belt tensioner. Look at that. See that little belt tensioner right there pressing up against the belt? That's a detail you don't see very often. Very nice. Let's take a look at this engine detail. The engine is nicely molded. Now, it's not quite to the quality of, let's say, the Tamiya engine that we saw in the Datsun 240Z, but it is quite good. Here's our intake assembly. Again, nicely done. And very little, if any, flash worth noting on any of these parts. Now, this is an original kit. I don't know how many times they may have reissued it, if at all. But this kit has been, this is the original release of this kit. Here we have our spark plug wire. Okay, here we have our wheel backs. This is our inner hood frame with the headlights. Now that's going to have to be painted body color, while the rest of the hood frame is black. Here's the chassis, which is actually pretty nice looking. Again, well molded. Here we're taking a look back in time when these kits get reissued as the molds start to wear down from repeated use. You start to see flash and mold marks all over the parts. This is from I guess, first generation stamping, and all the parts are crisp and clean. All right, we have a little bit of marking here. This may have been where one of the tires was sitting on the plastic. All right, let's take a look at some of the pieces that have fallen off the trees. Here's the dash, nicely detailed in all its late 80s, early 90s splendor, where everything was square. But it is nicely detailed, crisp and clean. Let's take a look at our tires here. Oh yeah, Goodyear tires, look at that. All the information right where it should be. Let's look at the treads, nice tread pattern. There, nice hard rubber. Nicely done. Let's take a look at this. One of the tires here that's fallen off. Now the tires, they are staggered. So you got to be aware of that if you're going to build this kit. The rears are wider than the fronts. I see what appears to be a metal axle. I don't recall seeing that in the instructions. So this may not even be from this kit. And here I have black wire, which not really sure if that goes to this kit either. There's thing. Okay, that may not be, because this is a spare tire from a Pontiac Fiero. So some of this stuff may not even go to this car. Found a wheel back in there, another wheel back. This was my first color choice for the car. As you can see, my painting ability, skills, whatever, were not great back then, as there's no primer on here. Paint is laid on too thin in some places. I'm going to have to strip this down and start all over with this one. Apparently I didn't get much further than just painting the front bumper, although it is a nice color. Like a metal flake green of some kind. And here we have our tail lights and third brake light. Glad they're still there. And what's left of our decals, basically it's just the only decals it brings are the license plate decals. Alright guys, well that's it. The only thing we have left is, here's our missing exhaust manifold, one of our body supports, and our rear differential. So all in all, it looks pretty good. Looks like everything's here, which is one thing I'm happy about. And you get a look back into how model kits were packaged in the good old days, where unlike today where everything has a separate plastic bag to protect all the individual parts, they were just kind of all tossed in there. What is this here? And here we have a metal wheel pin that looks kind of like what Revell uses now. I'm convinced that some of these parts don't belong to this car. But we're going to put it all back in the box. What we're going to do is wrap the windshield up. But back in the good old days, it was all about just pack it in the box and ship it. Not like today, where they take a little more care. Alright guys, well, that's it for the unboxing of the Corvette zr1. Looks like it's going to be an interesting build. And I hope to see you there. So, we're going to move on to the next unboxing and see what the rest of the items that we're... oh, forgot to put the instructions back in. Would hate to lose those after all these years. I'm going to go on with the other unboxing and see how we're doing with the other kits that are on the table as prospective next builds. Alright, I'll see you on the next one.